Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1070A, and today's date is September 8th, 2016, and the title of the episode is Automakers Are Caught Manipulating Sales Numbers. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, today we see the market, it's down a little bit. Gold is being suppressed once again. We're still hovering around the 1340 range worth of gold. And we're back where we started, actually. After the suppression, gold went back up. They're pushing it down again. And we can see that gold is holding steady right now. They don't want gold to move up because this is an indicator that things are rapidly falling apart. As long as they can keep gold down, they can keep the masses fooled of what's really going on. Of course, they're manipulating everything else, like unemployment, GDP, and keeping the stock market up. But we can see right now their mission is to keep gold down. Because what we're seeing right now is that more and more corporations, they're laying off individuals. We see Dell, yes, they're merging with EMC, but 2,000 to 3,000 people are going to lose their job. And we're seeing a lot of corporations, they are laying off individuals because the sales are poor, because they can't make ends meet. They have to cut costs. They take those funds. They buy back their stock. They push the stock market up. And it's a repeating cycle. And they're trying to convince everyone that these companies are doing very well. But most of them are just hanging on right now. And we know that the entire system is completely manipulated. We've been talking about auto sales. We've been talking about delinquencies. We talk about housing. And we talked about how the auto industry counts sales, how the cars are delivered to their lots. And as they're delivered, those are counted as sales. And we know that the manufacturers overproduce these automobiles and they channel stuff the lots. And everyone is sitting around going, well, how are automobile sales so strong for the last 7 years? Where the rest of the economy and retail is having troubles. Well, that's one reason. They also opened up the massive subprime auto lending scheme, which created this bubble. And of course, they have zero cash down, zero interest. They extended the length of the loan to allow people to afford it. But something very interesting happened. Fiat Chrysler looks like they might have been falsifying vehicle purchases in order to manage monthly sales figures. Right now, the FBI is interested in this, and they're looking at it. Now, don't expect anything to happen here. They might hit them with a fine, but that's about it. So what we're seeing right now is that Fiat Chrysler improperly adjusted monthly numbers to show growth over the prior period. Now, there are a couple of lawsuits that are being filed. One is from Ed Napleton. He owns about 50 dealerships in 5 states. And he alleges that the Fiat Chrysler district manager in June of 2015 offered him $20,000 if one of his dealerships falsely reported 40 vehicles as sold. This money would be credited to the dealership account as cooperative advertising support. And this is just one suit. There are many, many suits right now being filed. Fiat Chrysler would then mark those same vehicles as unsold at the beginning of the next month. The practice is known as unwinding. It's called unwinding a sale. Unwinding is a normal practice for return cars, either when the customer, maybe they changed their mind, maybe they couldn't get the financing. Because remember, most of the time, they allow you to drive the car off the lot before the financing is complete. And the company said that unwound sales have not been subtracted from the sales report. And we can see when you start subtracting those unwound sales, we get a very different look. It's almost half the sales that they've been reporting, which is very interesting. So this is another case of manipulation. Barnes & Noble, the chairman and founder, he just summed it up, how retail is actually doing. He said the bookstore chain is suffering from one of the worst retail environments in decades after traffic in stores hit close to historic low points. He said it is one of the worst I've ever experienced in 50 years. And we see why. People are not running out to purchase these items. The sales of Barnes & Noble, that has dropped by 6.6%. And yes, they have an online system. Yes, they have the Nook, where you can download books. But look what's happening here. People do not have the discretionary funds to go out and just make willy-nilly purchases. And especially the next generation coming up, because they're graduating college. They have these huge amount of student loans, and they cannot find jobs. They're not purchasing homes. They're not purchasing cars. They're not going out and purchasing big TVs, DVDs, surround sound systems, books, and all that stuff. And it's showing up in retail. And it's not just the younger generation, it's the middle generation. Now, the older generation is a little different. They've worked all these years. They're in retirement. They have money saved. Those people who saved very nicely over those years, they have the ability to spend. A lot of these individuals have sold their homes, made a profit on it. There are some who are retiring who are just getting by. But we can see they no longer support the economy. It's the other generations. And the generations that are supposed to support the economy, it is a disaster for them. It's just awful. And we can see that in the real estate market, things are deteriorating very, very quickly. And we see the New York City luxury real estate, well, that has weakened. Prices are dropping once again. And we're seeing this in the United States. We're seeing this in Canada. We're seeing it in the UK. We're seeing it in Australia. Because the real estate market right now, it's not a people's market. Yes, the central bank, they came in, they're able to take certain areas, pump them up, and make them look really great. What about the rest of the areas? Well, the corporate media doesn't like to report on those. But those outlying areas that are not included maybe in the Washington, New York, San Francisco, Phoenix type of areas, things are starting to rapidly fall apart. And even in those areas, we're seeing that cash investing into those areas, purchasing the houses, they are on a decline. And we're not just seeing it here in the United States, we're seeing it in many different countries. Actually, I'm just going to mention his first name, Danielle from Australia. And he's saying that he's a plumber. And the new housing that's going on there is declining. There's really not much work out there. And he's not done any work in over 6 months. And a lot of the workers are returning to the metro areas trying to find work. And we can see right now there are many people out there who are looking for work. But what we're seeing is that as the system declines, implodes, there's going to be more and more people looking for work. We saw this back in 2008. We saw that the housing industry, which affects many other industries, furnishing, home goods, plumbers, electricians, builders, they're all going to start looking for work. They're going to say, what's going on here? Things don't look good. And we can see that the situation is just getting worse and worse. When we look at the shipping industry, Hanjin, we know they're bankrupt. We know about 85 Hanjin ships, they're marooned offshore, and they're worried about manufacturing goods getting to their destinations. And I wouldn't be surprised if this holiday season they blame the slow holiday season on this shipping company saying we couldn't get the goods, and since we didn't have the goods, this is why the holiday season wasn't that great. They could use that excuse. Now, we realize the central banks are very worried about gold, and the IRS, they came out with a warning against keeping IRA funds in gold at home. So the Internal Revenue Service, they're not too keen on people keeping gold in their house or in safety deposit boxes. Now the question is, why aren't they keen about this? Why does this bother them? Because they can't get to it. They don't like it when things are out of their control. They don't know what you really have. And this is why they have some type of warning. Now, is it illegal? No. But what we're seeing right now is they're starting to realize that there are individuals that will be keeping gold, silver, and other investments in their houses. And what we can see right now is that at one time, yes, the United States government central bankers, they confiscated gold. They really didn't confiscate it. They actually paid you for it. They said, listen, we'll give you $20 for an ounce of gold. Thank you very much. Here's the paper money. And as soon as they got all the gold, they upped it to $35. And they froze it at that point. But something very interesting is that they don't even have to take your gold. They can do something else. Because in 1980, Congress passed the crude oil windfall profit tax, which taxed up to 70% of windfall profits. Now, you probably, what in the world is a windfall profit? Well, that is when you make a lot of money. So think about it. If gold explodes, all they have to do is make a windfall profits tax on gold. And they can levy a tax around 80-90%. Now, of course, you can say you have no gold, and those people who have who purchased gold in smaller ounces or quarter of an ounces or 1 ounce, they'll get away with it. Those individuals who've purchased, bars of gold, that's going to be a little bit harder to prove that you don't have it, because I think everything over $600 worth of gold right now is recorded. So what we can see right now is they could still confiscate your gold, but not actually come and take it. They'll just tax you on it. Now, Janet Yellen was out there, and she is urging Congress to make some significant changes to the banking regulation. It's a very interesting time to start doing this. And the Fed urges Congress to repeal sections of the Bank Holding Act that allows Wall Street firms to make investments in non-financial companies. The Fed also advises Congress to restrict bank ownership of physical commodities. Well, the ban on investing in non-financial companies, which is highly ironic given that the central banks are directly buying massive stakes in the world's corporate entities, and the restriction on physical ownership of commodities, which raises eyebrows on both oil manipulation and the hoarding of precious metals ahead of the Fed losing control. So it's very interesting that they're coming out with these two recommendations. Now, is Congress going to go ahead and pass these laws? Most likely not. But you can see from all of this is they're worried about what is coming. Think about what they have done just in the last couple of months, where they're telling us there's going to be this economic shock. They're telling us they're going to be doing more QE. Bank of Japan going to be buying stocks. ECB looking at purchasing stocks. ECB looking to purchase more corporate bonds, even though they're running out, and I think they'll run out by November. The Fed looking to purchase stocks to bring interest rates down, like the rest of the world. And now they want to pass some additional laws here. And remember, every time they pass these laws or make a suggestion of what they need, it's not in the interest of the people. It's in the interest for the bankers. Because they know the system's collapsing. They know that eventually the system will completely implode. And they're just preparing, getting ready for when this happens. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.